Like and subscribe right now, or this spider will crawl on your face while you're sleeping.
The animal kingdom has a lot of diversity. From the smallest of organisms to the biggest ones that inhabit our planet all lie in the food chain. However, the animal kingdom has seen its fair share of extinctions, and there are probably thousands of species that came and went away throughout the ages. Scientists have been trying to bring back a lot of the extinct species, such as the Woolly Mammoth, Steller sea cow, or the Irish Elk. However, that is a topic we shall reserve for another day, and time, as today we are relooking at the prehistoric animals that could still exist. Sightings of these extinct creatures have been widely reported in modern history, and there are thousands out there who still believe that these creatures are still among us, but just a little hidden from the prying eyes. So without further ado, let's go! Number 12. Zanzibar Leopard. One of the several subspecies of leopard, the Zanzibar leopard made its home on the Zanzibar archipelago of Tanzania. It's still unclear whether this large cat is technically extinct. There are occasional unconfirmed sightings. Cause of the extinction was simple. The leopard was extinct thanks to the belief that these are animals that are kept by witches. For this reason, locals aggressively hunted them. Human stupidity basically robbed us of an animal species. It didn't help that the government was in on the campaign to exterminate the creatures. In the mid-90s, there was a lot of short-lived conservation effort, but it was deemed too little too late. In 2008, Animal Planet released footage of what identified as a Zanzibar leopard, but those claims have yet to be confirmed.
Before we move on, I've got a little challenge for you that will take just 5 seconds to complete. So here's the deal. You just leave a like on this video, smash that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell and you get 25 years of amazing luck. Try it. It really works.
Number 11. The quagga. The quagga was a native to South Africa and went extinct in the late 19th century. For a long time, the quagga was thought to be its own species before it was discovered that was closely related to the plain zebra, and was, in fact, a subspecies of the zebra. Quaggas were interesting in appearance, quite literally looking like the mashup between two animals. A zebra in the front, thanks to the famous zebra stripes adorning on this part of its body, and a horse in the rear due to the lack of stripes in this area. Scientists are trying to resurrect the quagga and have been seeing some success via reverse engineering by selectively breeding zebras. Number 10. Woolly Mammoth. The internet was abuzz over a video of a bear with a fish in its mouth that found its way onto YouTube. Tabloids wondered, what if woollies are still around? But there hasn't been a sighting for about 100 years. In the 20th century, in other words. That seems odd considering that the woolly died off over 4,000 years ago. Yet in 1920, a Frenchman told a fantastic story of seeing what certainly sounds like a woolly mammoth in Siberia. It was a huge elephant with big white tusks that were very curved. Its hair was darker chestnut color, as far as I could see. It had a fairly long hair on its hindquarters, but it seemed shorter in the front, I must say. I had no idea that there were such big elephants. A second beast was around. It seemed to be at least as big as the first. As late as 1948, frozen mammoths were discovered with meat fresh still. That's not exactly solid evidence, but given the vast wilderness of Siberia, it isn't out of the question. If any one of you are brave enough to go explore Siberia to find a woolly mammoth, please go ahead. Number 9. Passenger pigeon. Passenger pigeons used to number in the billions. John James Obedon once watched a flock fly overhead for 3 days. 300 million pigeons per hour. That's a lot of birds. But the problem with there being so many birds is that they're very easy to hunt. Hunters, loss of habitat, and infectious diseases contribute to their eventual extinction. Efforts to maintain a small captive flock failed, because the birds were used to living in such large groups. The last passenger pigeon, named Martha, died in the Cincinnati Zoo in 1914. 7 years later, after the passenger pigeon officially became extinct in the wild, a few were reported spotted by a fairly reputable person, the US President Theodore Roosevelt. In 1907, while in the Albemarle County, the first environmental president, who certainly knew his animal species, claimed he saw a small flock. Nowadays, someone occasionally sees a bird that looks a lot like a passenger pigeon. Small flocks of passenger pigeons are sometimes even seen in their old nesting areas, mostly around the Ozark Mountains. It's entirely possible that these smaller flocks survived. Too many people who know what they look like have seen a passenger pigeon after their extinction date. So who knows, they might still be around. Number 8. Tasmanian Tiger. Tasmanian tigers were hunted for being a threat to livestock. Loss of habitat didn't help much. Settlers will do that to an animal. The thylacine officially died off in 1936. However, reported sightings are fairly common as far as extinct animals go. They've been spotted in Tasmania and mainland Australia, although none of the sightings are scientifically confirmed. You'll be happy to know that a few of the sightings were by sober people. In 1979, there was a much reported report of a Tasmanian tiger by fencing workers at the Lang Lang early one morning. This is one of the few daytime reports that has been seen by several people, and very importantly, they hadn't been drinking. There are more than a dozen sightings. Part of the confusion is that many of these sightings come from mainland Australia, where the species has been extinct since the 1800s. And there's some more interesting footage out there as well. You can make the argument that what you see in most of the videos is a dog with a limp, but there are those convinced that it could easily be a Tasmanian tiger. Number 7. The Yangtze River Dolphin, aka Biagi. The Biagi were dolphins found exclusively in the Yangtze River. These dolphins were once plentiful but have been doomed by the construction of the Three Gorges Dam and the increased boat traffic. The Biagi were declared extinct in 2006. But then one was spotted a mere year later. A team of scholars led by scientist Wang Ding confirmed the sighting. That's positive news for the survival of this species. Unfortunately, there's only been that single sighting. A massive expedition of over 3,540 kilometers did not yield any further sightings. However, the Yangtze is rather long, so there's always a chance that a few Biagi could still be found. Also, all dolphins are very intelligent creatures. They probably took the opportunity to move away from the meddling humans anyway. Number 6. Japanese Wolf. There are actually two types of the Japanese wolf, the Honshu wolf and the Hokkaido wolf. The Japanese wolves met its demise in the same way that many other animals did, at the hands of an American, for being a pest to livestock. A man named Edwin Dunn, hired by the Japanese, dropped a little strychnine and greatly facilitated their downfall. The Honshu died off in 1905 and the Hokkaido in 1989. Despite being dead, a Japanese wolf managed to turn up in 1910, and in the 1930s, and again in the 1950s. If that wasn't enough, there's also been a couple sightings in the late 1990s. One theory is that the animals seen and heard howling are actually a wolf-dog hybrid. That's certainly plausible, but are they a breeding population? Or is it more likely that the Japanese wolf is indeed still roaming the Japanese countryside? We certainly hope so. Number 5. Ivory-billed woodpecker. The ivory-billed woodpecker is a bit special. It never really officially went extinct. It was declared extinct in the 1920s, only to be spotted throughout the 1940s. In the 1950s, it was again presumed extinct, so naturally, it's still seen today. In 2005, there have been some documented sightings in Arkansas by a group of ornithologists. They recorded no fewer than 15 sightings of the ivory-billed woodpecker. The fact that this group of ornithologists hailed from Cornell, an Ivy League school, would make you think that the ivory-billed woodpecker was still flying. However, the ivory-billed woodpecker is a bit of a third rail in the bird world. A number of scientists doubt the veracity of the Cornell report. Then again, people have been wrong about their extinctions in the 1920s and the 40s. The ivory-billed woodpecker could be still caught flying around today. Number 4. Eastern cougar. The large, tawny, long-tailed cat, native to the New World, probably has more common names than any other animal. Cougar, puma, mountain lion, panther, painter, and catamount are the best-known names in the United States. But several dozen additional names have been recorded across the North and South America, all refer to the same species of cat, whose current scientific name is Puma concolor. With the jaguar being the largest cat found in North America, the eastern cougar is the second largest feline found on the continent. However, the eastern cougar was declared extinct in 2011, which is rather odd considering the enormous number of sightings. There are sightings in practically every East Coast state, and, of course, sightings after the 2011 declaration. There are entire websites dedicated to the state-specific sightings. People of New Hampshire saw and photographed a cougar that was officially not there. There was also footprints, scat, fur, all the things you would expect from a non-extinct animal. The eastern cougar doesn't seem to be too extinct after all. Number 3. Japanese river otter. The Japanese river otters became less common in the 1930s. By the time the 1970s rolled around, they were flat out rare. Declared extinct in 2012, it took, you guessed it, a year for the next one to be spotted again. Sightings are surprisingly common. In the first year since its extinct status, there have been 15 sightings. Most of these sightings are unofficial. However, getting a sighting recognized as official isn't a simple thing. Actual capture of the animal is usually required. Scientists like to point out that most of the recent seen otters were spotted in areas they wouldn't typically be, like polluted rivers. But wouldn't an animal go to where the easy food or garbage is, especially if its numbers are dwindling? It's the Mexican grizzly bear at number 2. The Mexican grizzly bear ranged from Mexico to as far north as Colorado. It was widely believed that the last was killed in Mexico in 1960. They were officially declared extinct in 1964, yet Mexican grizzlies continue to be spotted. The North American grizzly is found much further north, but southern Colorado has a few credible sightings. There is an uptick in sightings over grizzlies in the former Mexican grizzly range. They are definitely grizzlies in those parts, the only question is whether they're Mexican grizzlies. A study in 1979, 15 years after the extinction date, showed evidence of grizzlies such as claw marks and footprints in Mexico. The study also established that remote Mexico was a sustainable habitat for grizzly bears. Number 1. Javan tiger. The Javan tiger was found in the Indonesian island of Java. Fittingly enough, hunting is the main reason why Javan's tigers died off. When you're on an island and you're being hunted, there's only so far you can go. The last official sighting of the animal occurred in 1976. However, they were allegedly captured throughout the 1980s. An exhaustive search in the mid-1990s led to a 1994 declaration that the Javan tiger were extinct, until someone saw them a year later. In 1995, a Javan forester accidentally discovered a group of Javan tigers. Sightings continued throughout the first decade of the 2000s. The Meru Batiri National Park, the site of the last confirmed sighting, seems to be the most likely spot for their survival. Activist Wayu Giri Pasetsio is still finding evidence of the tiger, from hair to scat. He firmly believes the Javan tiger is alive. Of all the extinct animals, the Javan tiger is probably the most likely to still be around. Thank you so much for watching today's video, we hope you enjoyed it, and please stay tuned for more.